the first sentence of the book is, "Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well?" What up, Search fam? Sharde here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Sharde, and I'm out here curating and co-creating a cool ass life. And I be telling you about the books I reading, at least at this juncture, because child, it's the end of the semester. I'm actually on my way to the office when I get done filming the vlog for today. But because of that, there's been a lot more book content because it's much easier for me to sit down and do talking head, show y'all some books, and then go edit it real quick. I have plenty of like travel vlogs and other things that I'm getting caught up on. Hopefully, once the semester lets out, child grades is due next week. So pray my strength in the Lord, if that's what you do. If you don't worry about it. Just send kind thoughts. You know what I mean? All right. So if you watched my October, November wrap up, I talked briefly about books that I was reading, nonfiction books that I was reading, and I had been getting done these things through my daily devotional practice. Now you can call it a morning routine, whatever, but I call it a devotional practice because it does involve some like deep reflection. Some of it is spiritual for me because I have religious underpinnings. But I did want to talk to you at length about utilizing books as part of your ritualistic morning routine, getting yourself started, using it as a means of sort of grounding yourself and challenging yourself intellectually, right? So to do that, I'm going to do a couple of things. Tell you about the books that I read in more detail and the books that I'm reading now for my devotional practice. I don't read just one book. Sometimes it's like I switch between two, depending how I'm feeling, or three, because I'm a mood reader. It is what it is. It's one of my character quirks or flaws, depending on how you look at it. So in November in particular was a good month for me as far as getting through my nonfictional reads. Now, I will also say that I am an academic. So some of the books that I choose to read are dense intellectually. Not to say that makes like that they're easy for me, because they're hard for me to read too, child. Like some of the stuff I assign to my students, I be like, listen, I assigned it to you, but also do know that I struggled with it. And sometimes I still struggle with it. Because what? Anyway, so I read 2 books last month that were just super good, and like reading them as part of my morning reading was just, I found them so generative. So one was Loving Corrections by Adrienne Maree Brown. And I love Adrienne Maree Brown's work. She also wrote Emergent Strategy and Pleasure Activism, which I'm currently also rereading, Pleasure Activism. Now, Loving Corrections is part of what she's calling the Emergent Strategy series. Emergent Strategy is talking about leadership and community building through the framework of Octavia Butler. And you know, we love grandmother Octavia Butler, auntie. You know, she's one of my favorite writers, just bar none, hands down. So this book is a collection of just like writings, essays, what she calls ruminations. There's some spell work in here, and poetry for the witchy girlies, of which I am. And so she thinks about like this is about being in right relationship with the world around us, with people, with our imaginations, with the earth, all of those things, and how we understand the idea of correction, of being held accountable. And I just found it super good. Like one of my favorite pieces out of here was Writing Imagination, which was about Ursula K. Le Guin, and who was a science fiction writer, prolific. I haven't read much Ursula K. Le Guin, but I know of her because I know my science fiction. And so she's on my list of things to read. I've actually started an audiobook based on a recommendation in here. And so I found this super helpful for me thinking about, especially given the times that we're in, how do I want to conduct my life? How do I want to be in relationship with other people? How am I building community? And so I love using books like this as sort of thought partners for me to work through my own sort of nascent ideas that may or may not have some founding. But this helps. And like, I enjoy it. So I'm going to read y'all just a short passage out of the essay called Writing Ableism. And she says, each body that you have lived in and will live in, your child body, teen body, adult body, elder body, healthy body, ailing body, each one is sacred, sovereign, special, and deserving of support. Each body you come across in the world, from parents to friends to lovers to children to teachers to co-workers to strangers, each one is sacred, sovereign, special, and deserving of support. The process you go through to find the ways to relate to your body, to manage pain, manage mobility, and in other ways live in your body. The processes are sacred too. And I just think that's so beautiful and helpful, especially for me as someone who is mostly able-bodied. But I also live in a bigger body. I live in a Black body. I live in a femme body that is also queer and also aging, right? We all are aging every day that we are on Earth. But as I approach what people would call middle age, I feel the differences. And so I'm thinking about my own existence in different ways. So it's one, this is an affirmation of yes, you continue to grow, you continue to figure out what life looks like in your body at each stage, and learning to radically accept, love, and appreciate those things, but also to do that in other people. And it makes me think about a quote that continues to stick with me that my pastor said a couple of few years ago now. And she said, we must bow deeply to the divine in others. And to sort of further that, we also must learn to bow deeply to the divine in ourselves. But that's another talk for another day, because I could go off. Sis can preach. So the other book that I read last month is called The Sovereignty of Quiet by Kevin Quashie. And oh my gosh, this was such a good read. Not an easy read by any means. It's a little bit dense, but it was so interesting. So this is a book, the sort of secondary title part of it is Beyond Resistance in Black Culture. And what he is arguing is how we look at the idea of quiet, of interiority, and how that is as important as sort of public facing actions and modalities of resistance, which are deeply tied to sort of Black existence and Black being, but not so much quiet. And as someone who is an introvert and changing the ways in which I'm looking at my activism, how I engage in the world, how I work toward liberation, much of it for me is sort of couched in the interior in particular ways. So being able to think through this, and he does it through, so he sort of grounds the argument in the 1968 Olympics, where Tommie Smith and John Carlos protests, and this is the Mexico City one. I'll put the picture right here, and how this seemed like an outward show of activism, but it actually speaks to interiority, into silence, into quiet, and how that is sort of deeply steeped in Black experiences. And so he uses a lot of literary things as far as interlocutors or conversation partners. And so he uses Baldwin, he uses Gwendolyn Brooks and Toni Morrison, their work to help to make these various parts of his argument. I think this is a fantastic book. It's one of those books I wish I could read it again for the first time, because I was just wow. So yes, now I'm currently cycling through a few books because I'm having a hard time sort of settling on a book for the month, or at least for the next couple of weeks, because I read these every day for at least 20 to 30 minutes. And so ideally I try to get through a chapter. And if I get through a chapter a day, I can finish a book or more in a week. Because I take seriously my morning time. At least I try to. I don't get it right every day, but I do attempt. So if you want to see what my sort of like morning devotional practice looks like, let me know in the downstairs in the comment section. So right now I'm reading Mad Blackness by Theri Alyce Pickens. And I've read parts of this book before. I purchased it when I was in grad school in my PhD program. And you can tell that I've read it before because there's, I don't know if y'all can see that, more than one color of notes, because I use one color per read, because it helps me to see the evolution of my thought process. And so this one is about the relationship between Blackness and disability. And Pickens is attempting to sort of rethink what that means. And she does it through like Black speculative and science fiction. She uses Octavia Butler, she uses Nella Hopkinson, and Tenerife Dew, which is like Black science fiction and horror. So, so delicious. But again, this book is not very long, but it is dense. And so I've only gotten through maybe up through almost halfway through the first chapter, and I've read the introduction. So my goal is to get through this one because it actually is really good. I do want to sit with it and think with it, but again, moods. I also restarted Toni Cade Bambara's The Salt Eaters because, you know, as a proper Southern woman in conjure, this is an important read. And so I've read part of The Salt Eaters when I was dissertating, and it's time for me to read it again, but read it again with a greater understanding. So this, I'm gonna read you the back parts of it. So this book is set in Claiborne, a town somewhere in the South. The Salt Eaters is a story of community of Black people searching for the healing properties of salt, who witness an event that will change their lives forever. Some of them are centered, some are off balance, some are frightened, and some are daring. From the men who live off welfare women to the mud mothers who carry their children in their hides, the novel brilliantly explores the narcissistic aspect of despair and the tremendous responsibility that comes with physical, spiritual, and mental well-being. So this is a full one. This is one you got to sit with, especially because the first page, right? The first sentence of the book is, "Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well?" What? And as somebody who be struggling with their mental health, that's a very good question. Because who knows the answer? So I really do want to get in to read this. I might take this with me when I go home and really set out and make myself sit with it. But again, it's one that I'm reading slowly so that I can like really get and distill the wisdom out of it, as well as any intellectual ideas that come with it for me. And so the last book that I am reading is called Walking Over Medicine. And I got this book off of a recommendation from my herbalism mentor, because I am a Black herbalist. And so this is by Londrell F. Snow. And this is pretty much about healthcare, Black people's experiences with healthcare, and the study of belief in folk medicine. And so this is an old text. I think it was published in the 90s. Yeah. So the first printing was in 1993. So we're talking about 70s, 80s. And so this is one that I have also been reading slowly. I've been reading it for a while now. Because again, for me, especially with my studies of African Americans and all that, to be able to understand belief, how it's tied to relationships around medicine and folk medicine, particularly, you don't want to lose the recipes. And some people have been able to like give us these gifts. So I'm super excited about it. It's just when my brain wants to get on board with the program. So yes, I choose my books based on sort of intellectual interest, some things that are helping with other parts of my life, like herbalism and conjure and things of that sort. Some of them are books off of my shelf for work that I've been meaning to read, so I just incorporate them into my morning practice of reading. But yeah, if you want more recommendations of books you can get into that I think are going to be super like generative to evolving and becoming better, just let me know. And as always, friends, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend about the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.